and I had just come back to the University of Florida after a year-long sabbatical I had earned by achieving a grade point average of just below 1.0. Actually, I think it was called a suspension, but I'm a writer, and I think that words are interchangeable, especially when they come to your own history. Anyway, suspension or sabbatical, it was the school's way of telling me I should take some time and think about what I'm doing and where I'm going. And that was good advice, and it actually worked for me. I spent my year away from Florida, from the University of Florida, and from my friends here, working a series of menial jobs so I could support my habit of reading detective novels and watching movies. This didn't work so well for my parents, but it worked pretty well for me. And so when I came back in winter of 1977, I had some goals and I had some ideas, and it was pretty soon after I started school again that I went over to Tigard Hall and changed my major to journalism. I decided during my sabbatical that I wanted to be a writer, and I thought journalism was the way to get there. And that's also where the library came in. So much of writing comes from the inspiration that comes from other writing. Reading other great words, other great writers gives you the fuel that you need to go on. I knew that when I made this choice to be a writer that it's a long shot and it would be a long road. And so I came to this library quite often. I didn't know it was called research by proximity, but that's what I was doing. I was looking for things that would inspire me. I was looking for fuel to put into my gas tank for that long road. Just for example, one of my things I looked for was stuff written by Hunter S. Thompson. Back then he wrote for the Rolling Stone, but not a lot of his work had been collected in books, and I would haunt the stacks. I mean, it wasn't like it is now where you can go to a computer and find something. It was actually like being a detective sometimes, trying to find some of the things you were looking for in the library. But I was able to read everything he had written for the Rolling Stone magazine in the prior 10 years, and that helped to inspire me. And I think that was what my message is here today, that people come here for ideas and for inspiration, and I'm a product of that, and that's why I'm so proud to be here. 9 months ago, I was in Indianapolis, and I got to see the Gators win the national championship in basketball. A few weeks ago, I was in Phoenix, and I got to see them win it in football. But I got to tell you, I think I'm more proud to be here today. I think this beautiful place will have a much longer lasting effect on people in terms of inspiring students and welcoming them to the world of ideas. This library and all our libraries should be cherished. They are places where we keep our culture and our ideas. We safeguard our future by safeguarding our past, and that's what we do right here. If the pursuit of knowledge is a noble pursuit, then the halls where we hold that knowledge are as equally noble. All that we know is right here. I'm sorry that Senator Smathers is not here with us at this dedication, but his legacy has certainly grown wider and more beautiful. This library is state-of-the-art, and it will be so for many, many years to come. And I'm not talking about the expensive coffee or the beanbag chairs. I'm talking about the ideas that are here. There's more space here. There's more storage here. There are more words. There are more things that can inspire people. And I'm sure Senator Smathers would be proud of that. When he was in Congress, he was known for cutting a dashing figure through the halls of Congress. And they even had a nickname for him, and I think that nickname might be appropriate for this place where we gather today. They called him Gorgeous George. And I think I'm always going to think of Library West as the Gorgeous George. It's such a my wife and I, also a graduate of the University of Florida, took a tour this morning, and we were just blown away at the opportunities here, at the opulence in terms of knowledge and inspiration. I think it's easy when we discuss the library to think in big picture terms and in theories and so forth. I thought I'd end my remarks by telling you a little picture story, just the story of a personal story about one library, one small library. I told you before, or I didn't tell you before, but when I was here before in doing my research by proximity, it was because I had a prior history in the library where I knew there was inspiration waiting in the stacks. When I was 12 years old, my family moved from Philadelphia to Fort Lauderdale in July. The summers in Pennsylvania were generally warm, but they did not prepare me for the sauna-like climate I found myself dropped into in the summer of my 12th year. And my father worked for a rent-a-car company, and my mom was a bank teller. And several days a week, she would take myself, along with my two younger brothers, to a city park on her way to work, and she would give us money for lunch and drop us off, and then she would pick us up on the way back. And the place was called Holiday Park, and there was everything anybody could want to do there: basketball, baseball, football, tennis. Mr. Foley, you would have loved it. Everything was self-contained in this park, and we would spend our days there. But did I mention it was pretty hot? And it was probably in our second week of doing this that my littlest brother made a tremendous discovery, really a life-altering discovery for me. There we were, worn out from the heat. We were slowly trudging across one of the baseball fields when he pointed to the little branch library that was on the corner of the park. And hanging from the roof of the library was a sign. In large letters it said, "Now air conditioned." And at first I thought it was a mirage. And I told my brothers the sun was just playing tricks on us. But we headed that way, and we got there, and sure enough, it was air conditioned. And we went in and sat on the plastic-covered couches and stretched out, and it was wonderfully cool. And after recovering a little bit and getting my wits about me, I saw there was an inordinate amount of young boys in this library. And many of them were kids I recognized from the baseball fields and the football fields of the park. And I noticed they were all holding books. And it was then that an imposing shadow moved across my vision. And I looked up, and there was a librarian staring coldly down at me. And that was when she gave me the rules. And she told me, if you wanted to come in and use the air conditioning, then you also had to use the library. And she said she wanted to see me reading something if she saw me in the library at all. So she asked me how old I was, and I told her I was 13. I lied. I didn't want her to think she was dealing with a boy. So she took me into the shelves and led me to a section and picked a book out for me to read. And I think it ended up being a little bit old for a 12-year-old. But over the course of the summer, I would go back to that spot, and if the book wasn't checked out, I would take it down and I would read a little bit of it. And little by little, I got that book done by the end of the summer. The book was called To Kill a Mockingbird, and I think reading that book at age 12, it helped instill in me a lifelong interest in reading. Also a lifelong interest in stories about justice, about the underdog triumphing, about adhering to a personal code and just doing what is right. And now, almost 40 years later, I make my living from writing stories, and I hope that they contain some of those things, if not all of them. And I got to tell you, I've thought about that day at the library, and I thought about that librarian whose name I never knew many, many times. And I think about what might have been or who I might have been if I had not gone there that day. I guess what I'm trying to say is that we will never know how many lives will be changed after they come through the doors of this building. We only know it will be many. We don't know what inspiration this place will give to the students who use it. We only know it will be great. We will never be able to quantify how important this place is, but rest assured, it's immense. I want to thank you all for being here today, and thank you for having me as well.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks to all of you. It's really an honor to feel the respect that the faculty and the students have, as evidenced by their speakers today for this library, and also to see how a library impacts an individual like Michael Conley. It really says it all, and I think it says a lot about the future of this great complex. Thank you all for coming. Dale tells me there still are tours available for those of you who would like them. Thanks so much for coming. That's the end of the program.